about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's about spaceships.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason Ward from MakingStarWars.net, and with me, as always, is Mr. Rob, the Sketchcraft guy.
The Sketchcraft guy.
Playing Sabak, however you say it. However the kids are saying it these days.
Wonder how much of a Star Wars nerd I was in the 90s.
I know. I know. I could tell. But tell me.
This is how bad it was. Rounders is in my top 3 films of all times, and I just would imagine Rounders as if they were playing Sabak. Like, I think I could do it if it was Sabak. yeah, that's how much of a nerd I was.
As a kid, I used to get my dad to take me to Disneyland whenever I could talk him into it. So that way I could ride Star Tours, and then we could exit through the gift shop. And they sold West End Games Star Wars products.
Got my first West End Game Star Wars product in the same gift shop.
Yeah.
In 1992.
And I bought the Cloud City RPG source guide, and it had little punch out cards for Sabak. And I never got anybody to play it with me because everyone was like, "What is this? This is too hard. I don't understand." And,
they're following the rules in the movie pretty good. I'm like, it's a shame
Yeah.
they never once sit down like when Han is in the military and maybe he learns it there or he teaches it to Chewbacca, you know? Like he's like, no, this does this and this does that.
Right.
And, you know, like, maybe this game ain't for you. You need something slower like chess.
Right.
So you can rip something off, you know, rip arms out. And then it comes back. Like, I don't know, man. We could talk about what Solo could have been all day, but I do appreciate the puppetry in that movie.
Yeah, so
I love the puppets.
I recently watched that movie again, and when I watch it again, I'm just like, it's such a shame that we didn't get more from it, that they couldn't do more with it. You know,
it feels
really is,
like
but
there's as much world building in that film as there was in episode 1 in terms of like it feels its own world and underworld continuity. You know what I mean? Like it has its own thing, whatever that is. You know?
Yeah, that's why I think it's not dying. That's why we keep fans keep going back to it and going, where's the rest? You know, Enfys Nest is rad. Where is she? What's going on? But there was a pretty cool story that broke yesterday, and that's that the Shamook dude who did the Luke Skywalker deepfake where he improved it. I will add the video link to the description after the show. I forgot to do it before. But it came out, you know, maybe a year ago or so now. Or not a year ago, but a little bit after the Mandalorian aired, and it was pretty good. It was a big improvement. One of those improvements where it already has the base work done to improve on. So like there is like that aspect to it, I think, to some degree. But if I remember right, like they even like got like a dude in like a costume and a wig and stuff, and like, you know, to like really make it look better. Yeah, but
I got the Luke face, can't you tell? Was it Boogie Nights? I look like Han Solo, right? I look like Han Solo.
feel my heat. But it pretty much got about 50 DMs about it. But the first was my best oldest bud, Griddle Marks. I think that's Marks like a Marxist at the end. I could be wrong though. I could be wrong.
All I want now is a McGriddle.
No,
it's like backwards.
No, he's totally not a Marxist for the record. But yeah, he sent it to me, and I was like, oh wow. And then I'll go back to our conversation in a second. Everyone who sent me a DM was like, dude, they're making the Luke show. They're making the Luke show. They're making the Luke show. And then but when me and Mark are talking, I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then he goes like, yeah, I bet you it's for Indiana Jones. And I'm like, that's good thinking.
Or general techniques.
Sure. I mean, general,
general techniques. I would say like I watched that when it came out, and I think it looks better when he's not talking. I've yet to see one professional or amateur, whatever, solve the jaw problem.
Right.
Once it starts moving around the mouth, this is something James Cameron, if you ever read Cinefex on the making of Avatar, which I'm certain none of you have. Um, you would find out how many years they spent on the camera, not just on trying to get the face from the eyes and the mouth, but the jaw and the inner mouth movement. And that camera has to capture all that data. And it
Right.
took them 5 years before they got one workable frame. I don't
Yeah.
know of any movie spending 5 years on trying to get one piece of tech to get one movable frame.
Right.
It is incredibly difficult. This is why in video games, when you see them use like some kind of mocap, the mouth always has like dead teeth. The worst, probably back in the day when it was hand synced, Jedi Knight 3, which I love that game, but the mouths, like their teeth would glow. You know, it would look like Ross on Friends when he got his teeth whitened.
Yeah.
But even this Luke footage is good until he moves, and you just kind of like don't look at his mouth, just look at his eyes. Look at his eyes. So
I always reiterate, just to be clear, love the scene, not the execution. Like that's kind of where I felt on it. And for a Star Wars TV show, still pretty amazing. Not sorry that they did it, but also not going to pretend like we don't have a long way to go. But how do you feel about it, Rob? Like, are you like for it, even though you know it won't be an A+? Like next time it happens, it's not going to be an A+. It's not. It hasn't ever been. But I'm kind of for it. But do you think it's something that you just don't do?
no, I think it's a nuanced conversation. So I got like a few tiers on this. One, they did it because you didn't get that young Luke scene in The Last Jedi: Rise of Skywalker that everyone wanted. Had that happened, then this probably would have been a new actor, you know?
Right.
So they couldn't just jump into a new actor, or you'd hear the endless, they're replacing Luke. So there's that.
With an
Two-
SJW. Sorry.
You went there.
I
So,
did.
two, I have to wonder, whenever companies, this is true, when they're working on films, special effects, if say it's Industrial Light and Magic and Weta, they can't share technology because of trade patents and patents or whatever.
That's why
Technique
I
patents.
only used Dijkstra Vision. Sorry.
That was a thing.
Yeah, it was a
Forgot
thing.
about it. God, that he really wanted to be the next Lucas, John Deck.
Yeah.
So didn't work out. How'd that work
No,
out
he
for
just
you?
wanted George Lucas to pay for it. Like George Lucas was like, I made that. That's mine. You just named that to yourself, homie.
It's called Lucas Vision, homie. You know?
Yeah.
I imagine 70s Lucas listened to like Bootsy rap. You know what I mean? Like Grandmaster Flash gets the cardboard out.
He does. Yeah. Yeah. He was like, honestly, everyone at ILM, I want you guys to know that you guys are doing a good job. And believe it or not, the Fat Boys aren't just comedians, but pioneers of rap. He would just drop stuff like that. And
Well, so I've been wondering this when Disney went and did Tron Legacy, and the mocap was weird on the face. Not the accuracy of a CGI replacement, but the mocap on Jeff Bridges' facial structure was weird. And I'm like, I don't think they're using camera capture. And so I have to wonder, is that because someone out there owns a patent that they don't want to pay for? Or they don't want to pay the extra money to develop their own technique because there might be some kind of patent they don't want to compete with, right? Or have to go around? Or is it the third option? I didn't invent it, so we're going to do it our way. Our way is we was work for Incredible Hulk in 2003. We're going to do it, you know. I wonder, like, is it just hubris? It's not a good word, you know what I mean? But like, we didn't invent it, so we're doing it the ILM way.
Yeah. I mean, ILM is amazing, and I do think that they have probably always set their own path in a lot of ways. So there's probably like some of that, and in this instance, a cheap alternative on the market kind of just beat him to the punch in a weird way. I mean, that could be the case,
except for the rigging, the jaw movements. That's where camera capture makes a giant difference. So
right.
There's also the last little nuanced approach to this. Are you familiar with the toy company NECA?
NECA, what do they make?
They make like the Turtles toys, horror toys. They make a lot of licensed figures.
Okay.
And so like anytime they do a retro line, like they've done Back to the Future, you know, they're doing the 90s Turtles toys. People are like, your 3D scans are off. And they're like, these are the actors from the 90s. They're not 3D scanned. We have to hand sculpt that.
Right.
So you can't 3D capture Mark Hamill 3D capture now ain't gonna match the jawline and the facial structure of 1983's Mark Hamill in the same way that my face ain't. You know, like there's so many things. So that's where it's like I imagine it's probably a $20 million problem. They probably spent $2 million on.
Right.
You know, and that's just the reality of production. You know?
Right. Yeah, so, I feel like it's worth it that they continue to try these things, because if they ever should nail it, if it ever should hit a point where it's like it's so good and so affordable, it's going to be really good for people who want to just see kind of Harrison Ford keep making Han Solo films, for instance. Like, I'm all for that weird reality. Another part of me thinks, you know what, like, let other people do it. It's fine. Like, you know, do we really need 200 years worth of Harrison Ford movies? You know, not that I don't love the guy, but I go both ways on it.
I brought this up many times. From 1989 to 1999, we had 3 different Batman.
Yeah.
3 different.
But only one counted. Only one counted. I love Val Kilmer too, and that dude ain't Batman to me. Sorry, Mad Mardigan, you are not Batman. You're Iceman and you're Mad Mardigan. You're pretty cool. I like to party with you, but you're not Batman.
That's just I'm of many minds about this. I once agreed with you. This is a different conversation. You want to tangent off.
Obi-Wan once thought as you did.
I think of Batman Forever from 95 as the 90s version of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, it's I know it features an A-list character, but Batman was really on the downward spiral after 92.
Every time one of those Ain't It Cool News talkbackers was like, somebody violated my childhood in other terms, I was like, did you not see the 3rd and 4th Batman movies, you jerks?
But
this gets way worse.
The 3rd Batman film, although is not Burton and it's campy, it was a 4-quadrant film. The whole family went and saw it. And it didn't take them 7 years to figure out how to make it.
Yeah.
Like, there is something to be said about how much effort does it really take to make a movie about a man who dresses up as a bat and fights crime. Like, this is the struggling to turn Batman into an Oscar-winning feature it's like when they try too hard with Star Wars. Like, this is going to be the thing that changes your future childhoods. Don't make that. Just make a fun movie, and if it happens to be amazing, you will get there over time. You know.
Well, and that's what's kind of weird about this, though, is like with Batman, you could sort of reboot it or not be clear if it's a reboot. Like, it kind of was confused by a lot of it back then. I was like, I think that's the same Alfred. Is this the same stuff? I couldn't tell. I was just like, I just know I hate it. I just know I hate it. I'm never going to watch this again, you know? And, but when it comes to like the Luke Skywalker issue, for instance, so now we have Luke looking like Return of the Jedi Luke, but a computer version. And if they should go Sebastian Stan now, then we have to like jump through and recognize once again. Like, I feel like it would have been better, or it is better, to really pick the path and decide like what it's going to be and go on it.
I don't asking Lucasfilm to make decisions.
Yeah, I'm saying to either cast Sebastian Stan like tomorrow, yesterday for that matter, or commit to Mark Hamill playing Luke Skywalker for the rest of his life in a green screen room.
Well, I think Lucas had this figured out 20 years ago. And this is how I've always felt on it, is that you cast a new actor for that generation of films. And you say, all right, the new actor for Obi-Wan for this generation of films, these next 3 movies, is going to be Ewan McGregor. And even though he can do a little nuanced Alec Guinness, kind of look like him in a little bit of spots, he's going to be Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan, you know? And some people go, well, it's because he was younger and different. I guarantee you, if Liam Neeson had been playing an older, let's be honest, I always thought Liam Neeson would have been the Obi-Wan age. And the Obi-Wan age would have been the Anakin age in that episode 1 film. That's a confusing thing for me that's a whole nother.
Yeah.
Why? But if Liam Neeson had been Obi-Wan, we would have agreed to it too. You know, it's fine. It doesn't face it different, but he's got a beard. He's British.
I will say though,
wise.
if George Lucas had the power, all of those people would have been CGI, and in that thing would have probably looked like the original actors. Like that's the other side. But this isn't George Lucas.
George who would have, if he did done the whole movie, we're going to do it all the way we did the old films. But the one special effect will be CGI Obi-Wan, because we don't have the technology to bring, like, there's a version of George where there's a multiverse where he did that. He put all his eggs in that one basket.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
Well, there was an article around 2011-ish, and in it, someone who had some affiliation with Lucasfilm was like kind of a journalist type. This is from like memory, so forgive me if I'm totally butchering it. But
hold on, I gotta write down everything you say.
Yeah, he was claiming that George Lucas's Lucasfilm was buying up all of the rights to classic actors for some reason.
I remember that.
So that way they could, and I was like, what are the, it might have just been a wise investment for commercials. Like I remember we had like Audrey. I don't even know if that was ILM, but like there was that commercial with Audrey Hepburn, like selling some kind of chocolate
cleaner, or the vacuum cleaner one with like.
So there's at least two. Oh, Gene Kelly. Okay. Yeah. So it's like, so it may have just been, it might have just been some kind of investment, if it was even true, or if it was even
George
accurate.
Was like, when I talked to Michael Jackson on episode 1, he told me how he bought all the Beatles stuff, and I was like, I could just get their likenesses.
Yeah. Right.
No one's getting that.
Yeah. Man.
Like there is an evil side. There is the evil corporate George is like,
Have you ever heard Paul McCartney tell the story about that, where he just is like I was telling him about publishing and like where that's where you want to go, and then he's joking around saying, I'm going to buy your catalog, and I laughed, and then he went and did it, and he was serious.
Like remember how, I don't know if kids these days, if any kids watch the show, probably all our age, but music was still very serious in the 80s.
Yeah,
like
it's still like, serious to me. Damn it!
It was Live Aid. It was We Are the World. Like we still have the power to change things until the 90s showed them the truth. Yeah. Didn't go the way they thought it would. And it was like artistic socialist revolution is coming, and then Kurt Cobain decided to have a bullet sandwich, and then it was Stone Temple Pilots, and it was like bands from San Diego that went like, yeah. You know what's crazy about the Cobain thing was I was a fan of that first album. I didn't know a lot about music.
Bleach or Nevermind?
The one with Smells Like Teen Spirit. Nevermind,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that was the one I lived in the middle of, like a version of Mos Eisley. We didn't have a lot of access to music. Maybe the Tower Records at the mall, which was like 30 minutes away, but my dad wasn't letting me walk into the music store too often,
Right.
So, but I remember the day that happened. Like when I was in the art room, like I remember that day, like the people remember Kennedy's assassination, like they knew where they were. And I'm like, I wasn't even the biggest fan in terms of like, I didn't know the history or anything, but I was a fan of the music. And this kid his whole world was shattered. Like I hadn't seen people act that way again until 9/11. Like he was really distraught.
Well, what was funny about it was when I was obsessed. And everybody was just like, shut up about it. Shut up. There's other bands. And I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite one. And then it happened it broke on like a Friday. And I remember I was painting with my grandfather. He was like painting houses. That was my like little gig I had in that April with my grandfather.
Canvassing, they called it.
Canvassing. No. What do you call it? But I had like two tapes, and one was the original Star Wars soundtrack, and one was in utero. And I was just like, those were my tapes for the day. And then I got off work, and then I was like, oh, everyone's like, he's dead. And I was like, I don't know, because he had tried to commit suicide before, and failed, and or it was like reported as that. So I was kind of like iffy about it. Then it was like, oh, it is real. And then me and Randy got to school on Monday, and we like walk into school. We're in 8th grade. And all these like people that had nothing to do with it were like crying and like holding each other and shit. And I was like, what is this? I was like, screw these people. And we ditched and we went to Maury's Music and hung out at McDonald's in the ball pit or Burger King in the ball pit. We ditched in the ball pit that day.
That was and then I got a syringe stuck in my foot and had to go to the ER, you know?
No, now I just have hepatitis for life, but it's cool.
And that's my story about the day Kurt Cobain passed. You know, I remember that was, and it was almost like back to back with the OJ thing, you know, like it was like those are around the same time. I mean, my time is muddled. People go like, "Dude's clearly a year apart." I'm like, it's kind of like the Blurs, you know, after a certain while. You're like, yeah, kind of. But I'll just never forget how much that affected them. And that's when I went back, and one of my best friends in high school, who shares a last name with your friend Jason, which is why I was like, hey, that's an unusual last name. I know one of those.
Yeah.
She's a huge Kurt fan. I mean, to this day, big into music. And so that was like, I was like, hey, you know, because she knew how much Freddie meant to me when he passed, you know?
Yeah.
And that was the time I had found out how many of my friends were homophobes. You know, and I was like, oh, we're not friends anymore. Jerk.
Dude, I used to get beat up by jocks for wearing Queen shirts. No joke.
The
football guys?
The chest for the Queen. Yeah. Boosh.
Yeah, it was a different time. Sucked.
So I had a yellow shirt with those red, you know, the alligator things. I had red stripes or white stripes or whatever. And I was like, that's my way through, you know? And I wore that till my nips showed. I got too fat for that shirt. What are we talking about, Jason?
We're talking about Nirvana for some reason. Okay, so
I know we jumped into so ILM's gonna bring back Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, ILM's gonna bring back Kurt Cobain. That's gonna be great. Oh God, when I watched Black Widow and I see that opening with Teen Spirit, I was just like, I turned it off. Not because I wasn't like turning up because like I'm not gonna watch it. I was just like, I don't have the fortitude for this right now. So I bought it, but I still haven't watched it.
Blame Bick Rubin. Good movie.
It was good. Okay, yeah, I plan on watching it. Just haven't got to. Like I said, I saw that and I was like, ugh. But Dez says afternoon, and Dez is a channel member. Thank you for supporting the channel, and you can become a channel member to support us, or you can become a Patreon supporter, and where I upload the audio only versions of this. So 2 ways to support the channel if you want to. You don't have to though, but if you do, awesome. And thank you, Des. Good afternoon. And old Dell is here. Old man Josiah. Old man Josiah. Also a Ward, no relation, although I do feel like we are cousins at least. But yeah, I'm glad everybody's here in the chat.
Award from another lord, huh?
Right, right. From another Sith Lord. Oh, okay. Josiah says that CG was awful. Glad the dude could make it a little better. He said he could have made it even better, but didn't have original files or something. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was probably working off of a ripped version of the Disney Plus show. Probably to get off a torrent site, I would imagine.
This is where like losing Cinefex sucks, because even Cinefex when they went down was like the Mando issue is not as in depth as Cinefex used to be, and I also wonder how much there's a clampdown on ILM. You know, talking about their tricks of the trade. You know,
yeah.
I really wish we got. I know, like the Rinsler level, like old Cinefex style in depth on how these special effects were made. What were the technical processes and challenges actually used, and not just the surface level. I think it could have been better. They have the money. Like sometimes all the money in the world doesn't solve these problems. You know?
Right. But you know what? All the money in the world can solve.
Mine.
Dean Kundi working on Mandalorian, and it's being
Who's
reported.
That?
And I mean, yeah, no. As far as like cinematographer goes, I mean, like. You love him. I mean, he's made so many movies that we just love. I mean, Back to the Future is I mean, worked on Back to the Future and Jurassic Park, and
that's the DP for Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Why don't I know that?
Let's see what. Yeah, cinematographer. He's done a bunch of stuff, and some of it is just like I don't know what it is, or it's like Spy Next Door kind of stuff. You know what I mean? You're just like, okay, whatever. But yeah, he is no joke. And Back to the Future 2 and 3. So it's like Jurassic Park. Those are like the Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Project X with
the monkey.
With the famous murderer Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one where they have you seen that movie?
Oh yeah, I liked it.
I thought it was Turtles related because of Dimension X, and when I saw that, I'm like, they're just killing monkeys with radiation playing video games. What is this?
Right.
Like, yeah, it broke my heart.
Oh, Big Trouble in Little China. Yeah.
Why don't I know this?
Yeah, but
I'm actually a weak spot in my making Star Wars trivia knowledge, right?
well, he's never done Star Wars, so that's what's pretty crazy, is and he also did Apollo 13. So it's like
80s cinematographers are my weak spot.
Yeah, no, he's amazing, and
Apollo's great.
So it's great that he's going to be on Book of Boba, and IMDb has him listed for 2 episodes. That could be correct. That could be bullshit. That's the thing to always remember about IMDb, is anybody with an IMDb Pro account can put whatever they want, or it could simply, sometimes it'll even be like, oh, after this is completed, you can list it on your thing after 90 days. I'm making up the time frame. So it only so the 90 days has passed for 2 episodes in terms of when they could report what he's worked on. Boom, it's there, and then the other ones will be added later. There's all kinds of just dumb reasons stuff like that happens. So it could be right, but don't take it too
Such
seriously.
A random thing to make up. If not, you think they would go with like the Lord of the Rings, you know, DP, or they would go with what was a big one?
Well,
Larry Fong from the Snyder films, right?
I texted a source of mine, and I was like, Dinguni, and then they were just like, I know, and that was all they said. So
that's like, that Key and Peele sketch where they're texting one another and they don't get the context on either side,
Yeah.
And so eventually they meet up and one of them has a baseball bat with a nail driven through it. Like you're like, do you know? Huh.
Yeah.
That's complex.
It is. It really is. But no, but anyways, I think that's like super exciting, because these people coming from great films and who never got a chance to work on a Star Wars project are getting their opportunity. And I'll be honest with you, like the action lover, I'm not a big action lover, honestly, strangely, I'm really not. But the action guy in me is like excited for Book of Boba for that reason, because I think it's going to be solid. But I don't know enough about the story to be super like, what's the mystery? What do I want to know? Like, and in terms of that kind of stuff, like I am both excited and both like, I know I'm going to be 10 times more excited in December. And not just like as a person
2025.
Yeah, right. No, of this year, fortunately. But like, it just feels like there hasn't been like a lot to like latch onto. And this is one of the first things, like Robert Rodriguez, rad, but we've seen that now. And I don't mean like we've seen that it's done, like he has nothing else to offer. But we do have that right now. We could watch it on Disney Plus today.
Not the first Star Wars guy to wear a cowboy hat.
But he should be the last. Let's just put that out there. That's a fact.
When do they all move to top hats? Little mice.
I wonder if the guys who think that Dave Filoni is like walking around with spurs, like flipping off Kathleen Kennedy. I wonder if he puts on, like in their mind, he puts on the fedora and she's like, Dave, we want a non-binary character in the Mandalorian. And then he just gets his fedora and goes, "Milady," and walks on and does whatever he wants. I wonder
anytime
if that's what they
someone
think.
Brings up wearing spurs, I just get the shot of the Muppet movie where Kermit's legs enter the frame with the spurs.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, just a genius shot.
If you want me to ruin the Empire Strikes Back for you, Boba Fett doesn't have spurs on, but the sound effect is there, which means he is doing that through his little costume thing because he wants to be cool. What a poser. Think about it.
Yeah, they're actually in his boots, like roller skates, right? He's got little spurs in there. So,
but Michael Freeman, Oh, and hey, Mr. Lopez. Mr. Lopez is here. Michael Freeman says, I like Star Wars. Me too, dude. Me too.
Why do
So
we do this?
Josh says, Marvel seems to be able to do the de-aging thing better than Star Wars. Weird since they're both Disney.
It's not how visual effects get made, though. Again, I have to wonder, there has to be, it's a blend of one, certain patents, right? Like the process in which they do it is probably patented. And so then there's a licensing fee someone doesn't want to pay. And then someone says, we have our own techniques we could do. We'll do it this way. And then there's a discernible difference, and who cares? Like, there's just, and I don't think it's the this one thing across the board. I think it flips depending on where it goes. But there's several different effects houses in any film, and the ILM can be in charge of one thing. Like there was on the making of the Lord of the Rings, they actually had a conversation where what it was doing one thing with fire, and ILM was doing another thing with fire, but they weren't allowed to share their processes for doing that oil slick fire look, and so they had to like reverse engineer on both sides.
Yeah,
like this happens, and I know it seems crazy, but it's nuts. The visual effects game is weird.
I'm gonna come at it from a different angle, and I'm gonna say that Marvel had what's Jack Burton's name?
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell. Like the Kurt Russell visual effect in Guardians is I think it's pretty good. I think it's more passable than most. But that film like looks a little bit different. They also had Kurt Russell, who still looks pretty good, and isn't as drastically different as looking at, say, like Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill, like he couldn't stand in for himself today. You know what I mean? If he had a time machine, not knocking him, digging on him. It's just what it is. And it's like, and I also, does ILM do the visual effects for those films though? Does ILM? No,
they might do sequences or a little bit on certain.
So
films.
it's probably like several
like the
studios.
The Hulk on the Avengers was ILM, 100%, and that was them doing another. Then they moved to the camera capture, but maybe a bigger budget, and then they developed their own in-house techniques. This is where Cinefex. Look, losing Cinefex, man.
Yeah, I know. It's
like
sucks.
really. I mean, everyone's like movie theaters closing, studio shut down. My Cinefex, dude. Like.
But look at what they've kind of done over the years. Like when you compare them, like when Carrie was with us, Carrie Fisher, she was in her late 50s or 60s, woman, not the same as the 18-year-old Carrie Fisher, and they essentially were having to almost do it from scratch. It's not like they could necessarily use her to really put it together. Peter Cushing is not with us anymore, and everything that they had to do was just from reference material. Whereas, like, I think that's got to be a huge difference in them, or in how it plays out. But
personally, I feel they should just cast new actors.
Yeah.
And just let people go, look, it's a movie, use your imagination. People are dead. You know what I mean? Like, life happens.
Yeah.
But there is merit in developing that technology further. So I just think that when they do that, it should be something they put all their eggs into so that it gets the real attention it needs, and it's not shared with 7,000 other special effects budgets,
I don't personally believe that like we'll ever get. Somebody asked a couple of weeks ago, maybe now, do you think we'll ever get like a Rise of Skywalker special edition where JJ does a George Lucas and does like a second pass? And I would think it would be rad if Lucasfilm did at some point upgrade all of the digital people once the technology gets to a new spot, because Lucasfilm does have a tradition of upgrading things that didn't work to its fullest potential, and that were going to be consumed by an audience forever, we hope. But with that in mind, I don't see the Disney model really going that route too often, or really looking at things in that light, or being like, that's cool to spend money on. I mean, trends could change 20 years from now, but with that in mind, I would love that if that was where it was going to go. If we knew that Rogue One Tarkin was going to get an overhaul someday, and it was just going to always, going to keep getting better until it was virtually like identical, That would
So
be
what
cool.
you're saying, Jason, is you go to Disney Plus, you click on Rogue One, and it says
Rogue
updating. Right? It's a patch. Hold on.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, every time I watch a movie, it's got to update. You know, you
Hey,
go make some popcorn.
Disney support deepfake.exe won't load, and it won't let me play the Rogue One.
Do I want a DLC? The Obi-Wan Ewan McGregor or the Alan McGinnis? Sorry, you know the Alan McGinnis. Alan McGinnis. Just mix them all together, man. Look, God. I'm telling you, they mush. You know, after a while.
Yeah. True.
You know.
Yeah. No, I remember before episode 7, there was a fake article that came out, literally calling him Alec McGinnis, and the whole time it was like, oh man, it was funny though. It was funny because, and if it had been somebody who just made an error, I'd be like, we all mess up. But when you're making a fake article and you say that, it's extra hilarious. Yep, Star Wars is super fun. You are not wrong, Des. Mr. Lopez says, but if you look at what he did with Harrison, Han, or Tarkin, it's way better than Luke's deepfake. The original has a serious mouth problem. Tarkin doesn't. Yeah, and I think it's probably development, budgets, and time. But at the same time, I don't think having the Mark Hamill's physical appearance is going to be worth it at a certain point when a different actor has to come in to pretend to be Mark Hamill. Because then, that we're just kind of doing like the mocap sort of like flat meat bag costumes, meat bag avatars. And but I think like in the Sebastian Stan way, we do have a guy who looks enough like Luke with the characteristics that I can buy it. But that said, I mean, I really like I said, I like both ways. I just don't want it to be all mixed up. Like I don't want it to be like, oh, here's so and so playing Tarkin, and now here's Atari Man Tarkin. Just like,
but they already
just do one.
You're 20 years too late, bro, because they did Tarkin with the prosthetic nose and face in episode 3.
Yeah,
they already did.
No, it's true.
Actor Tarkin, and don't look anything like. I mean, it looks like a makeup version of Peter Cushing. On
my Making Star Wars Tumblr, I have a lot of the different makeup tests that they did. And that was a choice. That was a George Lucas choice, because in a few of the makeup tests, it looks exactly like Peter Cushing.
What was his issue?
They wanted him to look younger. Wanted him to look like it was 20 years before. And so that's why they went with that look. I never felt like it mattered. It never like ruined it for me. I was just like, okay. I was like, I don't really care about seeing him. I'm excited to see the Darth Vader, in the shot. But at the same time, like when I look at it now, when I watch it, I do wish CGI Tarkin was in there. But at the same time, it's like, God, those, yeah. I unpopular opinion, I don't hate that moment. I like it. I know a lot of people like it ruins or it's funny to them, but I think that was the Frankenstein and the over the topness. I thought it was on point, but at the same time, no, it's totally cool. I mean, I don't like it, it's like one of those things. It's like, God, I hate to compare Star Wars to sexuality, but it either works for you or it doesn't. You know what I mean? That's just like what it is. It either works for you or it doesn't. And
let me tell you what my grievance was with it. Yeah. Right? It was in 2005. It's now. Is Lucas had spent the better part of the 90s talking about how we want to bring James Earl Jones back when it's right. It's so important. It's a big deal.
Right.
And when they finally do, his lines of dialogue is no, like that's what you brought him back for, like not like a riveting performance or like any kind of like deep, inflectionist moment, something just, but pat me, I didn't know. Like, it's like anyone could have done that. There were already Darth Vader-esque voice actors in games.
Chad Vader.
Chad, this is before Chad, but I love Chad Vader, by the way.
Chad Vader's pretty great.
Chad Vader, one of the first old internet, old YouTube.
Yeah.
But so that's my thing. It's like it's like everything else. Like you bring back Owen and he just goes, guess that makes us brothers. I'm like, why even bother? Like I don't know. Other than you have to check it off the list. So that's my thing.
Yeah, and on a side note, I think in the original Return of the Jedi novel, it had Owen as Obi-Wan's brother.
Yeah.
Pretty weird. I remember reading that novel, thinking as a kid, Palpatine's name was Palatine. For some reason, I missed the P, and I'm like, is his name Palatine? Is that really his name? Is that really real? And then I think maybe it was Heir to the Empire. Finally, I saw it and I was like, oh, okay, they're serious. But yeah, the jaw on Clue looked janky in Tron. All CGI is, I think he's going to say lame. Yeah, lame.
If you're going to use lame, you have to spell it right, Michael. Come on, own it.
Mr. Freeman, one win for CGI on that one. No.
Yeah. See, we should have like a little score box.
Thrawn Talk says, hey bro, Shaq's headed to Reno for fun later. All right, man. Don't get into one of those hangover situations.
It looks like this.
Right. Mark Hamilton, Mr. Hamilton to you, says, I think they should go back and tweak Tarkin and Leia Rogue One and Luke Mando 3 and keep Alden as Han moving forward. Cast Sebastian Stan. That tech's never going to replace the real performance. Use it sparingly. Yeah, like I wouldn't, for instance, I would rather Ewan McGregor show up as a ghost. I mean, I was always of the mindset that if in the sequel trilogy, the ghost of Obi-Wan was to show up like how Yoda did, it would have been fine if it was Ewan McGregor, because if I was a very hot man like Ewan McGregor, I would not decide to come back as a ghost as fucking Alec Guinness. I would come back
my
as
old decrepit self.
I would want to be the guy whose hair George Lucas's daughter stole in the documentary. That guy, not Bridge over the River Kwai or whatever the hell that was.
It's the going bad for thirdsies and foursies I love. Man. You gotta rewatch that scene. It's just like I just want that slow. You can take the dial and slow it down. Like, can we just give me the knob? Like,
we have to rip that moment just so we can play it on the show every now and then.
And Lucas like, okay, that's enough. Like, that's
yeah. Yeah.
And then she just wouldn't leave Ewan's hair alone. Fuck, what am I gonna do?
but
hold on. In my head, she's got a toy room and she's taped it to like a bear or something, like a Cabbage Patch doll.
Remember that episode of South Park? I think it's South Park where like Butters has like all like the hair like taped to his head and stuff. Like
that
he's, like,
has to be what was in my head, because I was gonna say Butters. Yeah,
there might be a Ewan McGregor looking love doll in one of those girls' rooms somewhere with that hair, just like.
And I'm not making fun of her. It's an adorable kid moment, but it's just one of those things where you're just like, ooh.
Oh, no. I mean, she's a grown up now. She has to think it's funny. Come on.
Generally, why they don't allow the director's kids in during makeup tests, right? Like,
yeah.
Let me get your nails off, you know?
I mean, it has to be. They had to have thought it was, I would think they would have to have thought it was funny for it to make the final edit, not to have been pulled out. Like,
I just want people to be clear. I'm not making fun of her for doing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am, but but I get it. It's funny. It's funny.
I'm making fun of all those.
We're all weirdos.
Those dumb Star Wars fans who wore the clip-on fucking Padawan braids that they sold separately.
I'm actually. I mean, it wasn't like she was using deep fake technology to put Ewan into other movies that she liked.
Like, I still have Ewan, and the hair grows, so I have more of Ewan. It's grown better than my interest in my savings account. Why does she talk like George?
I don't know. I mean, I wonder where his fingernails are now.
What if she walks out the door and she hands it to George? Fine, I got you the hair. He's like, thanks.
he gives it to John Knoll, and they're all Operation Clone Actor moving forward, sir.
Yeah, it's all proceeding according to plan.
He's all, CGI has its limitations, but now I have the power.
But not Lucas.
And McCollum is just like, yes.
Call me anytime.
He's all, McCollum, go get me some McDonald's. Anyways, What was I gonna say? I had something to say, but I lost it now. Who cares? All right, what's next? Hey Kane, how's it going, dude? Great news about the deep fake guy. I'm hoping we all get a revised Luke face in that last episode.
Did you read the whole interview with him though?
The only thing I pulled up a quote to read. I just like screenshotted it. Oh, maybe I don't even have it on me now. I think I accidentally deleted it. But it was him saying something like, "Hey, you guys have seen I haven't done any updates lately. I got hired at Lucasfilm, and I'll be doing some updates soon," or something like that.
But as I read it, it sounded as if he had completed whatever work he was hired to do.
Yeah, well, that was where I thought maybe that was the case based off of him saying he could do more updates soon. But there's always a chance that he is a contract worker or a contract employee who will, whenever they're doing one of these, comes on, and then when that project's done, he's off.
He said
he's
3
back.
months, which is typical contract work, 3 to 4 months. So
yeah, and like Mark suggested, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he ends up going back for Indy. Or you know what I mean, or if he does any work on that one, or if they just learned everything, if they just kind of studied him and were like, thanks,
we drained your power.
Yeah.
Bye.
Right.
Or they learned that there wasn't much to it.
Mhm.
Like it's just that he trained his little AI program to do more than their AI program got trained.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, a lot of those algorithms are about feeding it data and it just learning. So I'm like, how controlled is this process? I'm very curious.
It did seem like they were kind of tuning it, right? Like they were like pulling out certain images and stuff. If I'm remembering right, like certain images gave better data than other ones. But yeah, do you think that they would change the end scene, Amanda?
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they would. The films, no.
Yeah.
And for a whole nother reason, I believe that the film Disney Plus side is more under the ownership than the films because of directors and producers.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I think, and I know that sounds weird, but we were having a discussion earlier, like about Star Wars and LucasArts. Like LucasArts had to license Star Wars from Lucasfilm because of the way things work, and so you end up with these video games that have very rigid licensing standards within their own company. And so I think when it comes to these shows that they are more controlled by Lucasfilm, but if they go to the movies, they got to get the director. And it could just be because they don't want to burn bridges or get into some weird SAG dispute or some licensing dispute or something that, was in their giant corporate document that they made.
Well, I mean, with the end of WandaVision being changed, I wonder if they would. And that one was probably a case of it not being finished and needing to make the deadline. But I wonder if they worked on it and there's going to be a better version of that coming. I don't think any of this says that or even
Marvel
suggests
would never
that.
go back and fix anything.
But
if they were going to fix stuff, they would have gone back and fixed Iron Man 2 a long time ago.
Well, because with Star Wars and like the current iteration of it, of like Disney Plus content, it's not hitting home video. It's not like they're releasing a version of it that we own and
video
cassette, and then they are changing it. It's like before it ever comes out in a box set for us to own, it would be altered by then, which is the better way to do it too, because it would, if things get fixed, a little visual effects things get fixed. That's not bad. I mean, they have done it when they've accidentally, like, I think there were errors where you saw like a crew member in the back of one of the Mando episodes, and like he was in the back, and then a couple days later he was gone.
They have to fix that.
And that kind of thing, exactly. Like that needs to be fixed, like as soon as possible.
HBO should go and digitally remove all the Starbucks cups from fucking Game of Thrones.
Still haven't fixed that continuity error in Bad Batch of that droid though.
Bro, there's a plane in Troy, the movie with the Wolfgang Peterson with Brad Pitt, and there's literally a fucking plane in one of the shots. 747 just right overhead.
Yeah. Lucas Kane says also, I'm really intrigued to know why Lucasfilm hired him. Make more Luke or something else.
They're putting Willie Scott back in.
I mean, well, yeah. What if it's going to end up being kind of a hybrid, where they end up in the future using both, where they kind of like do the digital model as best they can, and then render that with the deep fake stuff with the algorithm, to sort of like give it a better polish and then alter that. And maybe that's how the process will go in the future. Maybe that'll get it closer to lifelike. I don't know what you call it. Lifelike, realistic.
But this is what a discussion we had yesterday I want to kind of talk on is, or tag a little bit, is again, when people and lawyers go to these conventions and tell people fan art will get you sued, don't do it. This guy only got hired because of his fan art. It's fan art. It's digital fan art. The deepfake is fan art.
That was exactly what you messaged me. We were talking about like how back then they were saying, you were saying back in the day, they used to say no fan art in your portfolio. Now today it's like have fan art in your portfolio, right?
Yeah, if this guy was doing deepfakes of himself as different characters, they wouldn't have hired him. It's because he fixed that exact shot. They are and Struzan, to bring it back to Drew Struzan, talks about in that book of his how these art directors become, because he calls them Photoshop degrees or whatever. You know?
Yeah,
he speaks very rudiment with the subject, very old manish. Right. But he goes, because they know the Photoshop, they don't understand the art. You know, and what he really is saying is they are not able to see, because you've done all these things, you could do this. They only know if you do the specific thing that you can only do the specific thing ever.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah. No, I could totally see that. Like even like I use Logic Pro for recording, and there's a ton of things that I wish they would listen to me about and add to the program, so that way certain things don't sound like everybody else all the time. But you're kind of stuck in those confines. You have to, and I don't know Photoshop for shit. So, but with that said, I could see how it definitely like kind of puts you into some kind of box in that way. And like the reality of it is probably the way to go is both ways. Learn how to do it like Struzan and know your Photoshop.
if I got hired to work on God of War, I'm not, but let's say I did, I could see there's a contingent of the internet who would go, the Bandicoot guys working on the God of Wars. Oh, they're making God of Wars into Bandicoots. You know, like,
yeah,
this is the thing that it's just that people are unable. This is why you have casting agents and people who specify and understanding what someone can do versus what someone, you know,
has done.
Done. And it's just so I say juvenile, but that's how I feel. This is a juvenile stance to take, you know, like to think that just because you make eggs, you can't make spaghetti.
It's like in The Office when Jim eats the tuna sandwich the first day, and then homeboy calls him Big Tuna from there on out because he saw him eat tuna one time.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
hey, Big Tuna.
I just remembered. I don't know. Should I share this? I'll share it. It's stupid. Like a couple months back, I was on a dating app, and this lady who was really into Harry Potter, we liked each other, so we started talking, and she was like, you know, would you watch all the Harry Potter movies? And I was like, yeah, sure, you're hot, I'll watch Harry Potter with you. And then we're talking, and she does this one really weird thing where she goes, my Patronus is a dolphin. And then I don't know what to say to that because I'm not a magic man, and I
you never read the books, right?
No, I did. Okay. I did read the
so
books, but
but I get it. I totally get it.
She says my Patronus is a dolphin, and I said that's funny because mine's a tuna can, and then she blocked me.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, I was glad. I was like, this is so weird. And I was like, if somebody can't take a joke to that degree, I was like, oh, that's not going to work for me anyway, because I can't stop making inappropriate jokes. But
see, what I think though is this is a problem of just texting. Like in general, like context. Like I had a guy I work with recently on a project who's younger, and they wanted to have entire production meetings in text. And I'm like, I refuse to have these kinds of technical conversations in text because I can't control how you hear. Like if someone says, no, we're going to do something. And I go, oh, sure. You could be like, what? What's your problem? What's your problem? Or with the way like text works, sometimes it breaks everything up into little lines. So it looks like this manic, you know, if you were like, mine is a can of tuna. Oh, like, you know, like, I don't know how you read that. It's so weird. Like,
no, and yeah, and no, people on like Twitter like weaponize that like all the time. Like that's the thing that just happens.
Clearly you meant. What do you mean I meant?
But
you know?
I was telling my best friend about it, and he was laughing after it happened, and he said, "Dude, that would have been like you saying my lightsaber color is blue. What's your lightsaber color?" And I was like, you know, when you put it that way, I'm really glad that went nowhere.
I feel a moment like that, you know, you're into it or not. Mm-hmm. And it's best to, if you're into it, perfect. And if you're not, get out now, because it's all downhill from there. You know?
For sure.
So like for me, my wife was reading Harry Potter, like when we first met, like literally she brought the books. I stood her up 3 times. And she's like, I'm bringing the book to this coffee shop because this guy ain't going to show up. And I was like, nice, big, thick ass book. She's like, oh, well, you never shut up. But if she had brought the Patronus thing, I wouldn't have cared. But if she had been like, I would have been like a Lycan or a Worgen or some shit, I'd have been like, I'm out of here. You know? Yeah. It's weird how we all have like a dividing, you know, like stance on like geekdom. Like, it's a little weird. I don't want to associate with monsters and vampires and shit. You know, like it's just weird. You know, if we're like, my superpower would be flight. You know, you're like, I don't know. I'd wear my underwear on the inside or the outside of my pants.
I kind of think like it comes down to like there's like different camps almost. Like if you were a superhuman being who could be one thing, like would you be Luke Skywalker or would you be George Lucas? And I think that's kind of like the divide is I would fall on I would rather be George Lucas. Like I would rather, you know what I mean? Like I care more about the creative side of it and how it's made and how you know how the sausage is made. I don't want to live in the sausage. I think that's like kind of my dividing
unless
line.
My face is slopping it up at the mall,
right?
It's Chinese sausage.
Yeah, at the George Lucas Chinese buffet. Can we open that George Lucas Chinese buffet?
This is what you did. This is what the prequels did. You did this to me.
The band fam says, take off that effing hat like Kill Bill. Kathy says, my lady.
I gotta tell you, by the way, Mike Madsen's performance where he goes, we all deserve to die, is just so good. Yeah, I love it when he's just drinking margaritas in the desert. You know, I can taste the margaritas. I can feel the heat. And he definitely thinks they all deserve to die, but he's going to kill her anyway. Like, it's one of those moments. I'm like, this is a perfect scene.
You know, that first movie, I had such a dope see, like I said, I don't really like action movies because when they work for me, they really work, but they rarely work for me. Like when I saw From Dusk Till Dawn, me and Randy left that one week. We wanted to get into a fight. We were like 16. We're like, yeah, this movie was badass. I want to fight something. We should have started a fight club. We just didn't know yet. But then Kill Bill 1 was like that for me too. I was like, not that I wanted to go fight, but I was older about it. But I was just like, this is so good. That was so rad. That when Kill Bill 2 came, I was a little bit just like, different, just a different rhythm and everything. And it wasn't until recently when I watched Kill Bill 2 where I was just like, yeah, Kill Bill 2 is fantastic. It's
fantastic. He just doesn't follow the structure playbook that Hollywood does. You know, he literally has his own voice. But I remember walking out of the first film, like, this is what it must have felt like to see Star Wars opening night, where you see something that's so tied to its music, its actors, its pace is there, its pulp adventure. It's these things. It's a combination of high and lowbrow. Yeah. Right. It's got highbrow and lowbrow. It's humorous where, you know, with violence, like it has an arm being cut off scene, but it's the most over the top arm being cut off scene you've ever seen.
It's like George Lucas. It's like, you're right. It's like you have to love it so much that you have to love the genre so much that you don't think you're better than it. You just think you have a better way of doing it. And so you don't throw out the things that are like cheese and cornball. But what's kind of different, or strange, I should say, is like George Lucas sort of got weirder and went down his own, like he lost the audience in a weird way and was just like making George Lucas's weird version. Whereas like Quentin Tarantino never seems to have necessarily done that. He just likes those weird feet shots a lot. a lot.
God bless him. Right? Like if you got the money and you had the fetish, would you do it? Yes. Of course you would.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think if I'm not into feet, but if I was,
it's not my fetish, but I'm saying if it was your thing and you could, you would.
I don't know. I don't know if I would want that one as being like my blurb in 20 years before you go to the movies, like, you know.
But
did you know
we know
they
what
used
Uma's
to use
feet looks like? You know what I mean? Like, we know that we don't know what Sam Jackson's toes look like. We have no clue what Carrie Fisher's toes look like. You know,
I'm okay with that though. No. Trey says, I think Disney can suck it. They have the money; they can if they want to.
On themselves.
They
can go the full
Disney self suck. All right, Brian Babbage says it's all about the money and VFX, time, money, and resources for sure. Like, yeah, there's like no doubt about that. I mean, that's where I think, like, if you recall back when the prequels came out, you would have like your opening week version, and then you would have your version a week or so later with some upgraded visual effects. Like sometimes they weren't always ready in time.
I'm reminded of two schools of thought on this, to bring it back to James Cameron. When he was on Howard Stern show in 97, or early January 98, I think it was.
Right.
January 15th, it might have been.
Wow.
Talking about Titanic, but he was on there talking about Spider-Man and stuff. And Howard was like, I have my movie coming out. And he's like, oh yeah, Private Parts. I got, he got to see it or something. And he's like, I really like the Private Parts. It was after Private Parts came out in March 97. He goes, yeah, I really liked it. He's like, I really like how when you cut to the past, you just look at the camera and go, yeah, I know, I'm old. Just go with it. He's like, I would have spent $100 million on visual effects. It would have been, the whole production would have based around de-aging you. And here you just look at the camera and go, guys, just deal with it. And so, like, I know we think, a ton of money, make it the special thing, it would work. But I also think there's a version where George Lucas would have been like, do it in TV with no money so we can blame the limits of special effects in TV as a reason for why it's not. And then get in on the ground floor and build the tech up, because eventually it'll get there. Like, that's another, not the Gary Kurtz approach. We just throw money at it and go, I guess it'll all work out, right? Like Lucas is like, well, maybe we got to do it the other way.
Back then, there were two competing narratives for the pushback of the special edition releases of Empire and Jedi. And the first was A New Hope special edition did so well, we're pushing back the other films to give it more time to perform and for those movies to have their time in the theater. On the other hand side, you had Howard Stern, who said, my movie Private Parts is hitting, and I'm the king of all media, and they don't want to go up against me.
But they did. Jedi went up against Stern that weekend, and he beat Jedi.
Yeah.
I remember. And I saw both opening weekend, but
Same, yeah.
But I think, look, Jedi has its fan base. You love it. I love parts of it. Mm-hmm. But the mass public was not racing to see the Jedi in theaters. They were seeing the first one, and Empire was a fall off too. Like, it wasn't like it broke records. It was just that big hype weekend of the first film sort of.
Yeah. With those ones, I really think that if they had kind of done them closer together or all at once, it probably would have done a lot better. You know what I mean? A lot. But by that point, like, you were kind of, I mean, I was even kind of like tired of it. There was just like commercials constantly. It was just everywhere. By the time Return of the Jedi came, it was like a little bit like, okay, a little bit of burnout. It was kind of the Solo moment of the special edition releases.
I was about to say, it felt like Solo being so close to Jedi, but this was one every month for 3 months. Yeah. And this was like pre-episode 1 Star Wars marketing, so you couldn't escape Taco Bell. I mean, really, it was a great preamble.
Spirit of Obi-Wan. Of Obi-Wan from Frito-Lay chips.
Yeah, forget that. Damn. It was a really great, a portent of things to come with episode 1's marketing blitz.
Yeah, like Shadows of the Empire was kind of a test roundup for how they would handle
High Republic?
No, Shadows of the Empire in like 96 was like
no, I'm talking about Shadows of the Empire is like a portent of High Republic, where it's like
oh,
the movie without a movie, right?
movie with yeah. And they were and then we kind of saw the other version of that, of how they were going to handle the Pepsi side of things with us with the special edition. And I think that's why they overdid everything for Pepsi for episode 1, because at that point that kind of in a weird way took the wind out of new Star Wars stuff. Is it exists. Like, I think if that hadn't happened, I think people would have bought more stupid Pepsi cans and more stupid chip bags to save and things that they just threw away 3 years later, you know?
You want a what if scenario? Mm-hmm. A fun little game of what if? Mm-hmm. What if? So, what if the special editions had done so well being released 1 month apart that Lucas went the Peter Jackson route and shot all 3 episodes at once and released them within 18 months? Like every 6 months, there's a new Star Wars film.
In order for that, that would have required him to go, McCollum, can I have the number of your Coke dealer?
And that's the only way. And he gets 2nd, 3rd, 5th ADs, and he does the whole. Yeah. Imagine the production of Lord of the Rings, but you get a star. And Lucas wouldn't have done one every year. He would have done it like 6 months. You know, like I just know, like if he went that route, it would have been something closer. Like the Matrix sequels were released within 6 months of one another.
Were they?
Yeah, 6 months. So I know, right? You forget, but yeah, I mean, like that would have, and then you get all that marketing toy blitz within like an 18-month period, and then no more Star Wars for 20 years. Like, I just wonder, you know, like, would that have killed it? Like, I wonder.
I wonder if releasing those movies closer together would have change the discourse, in the sense that like you had 3 years of people to build up an argument about why it sucked, as opposed to moving on with their lives. And that's the thing, is they obviously do have grounds to be criticized. There are things to criticize in those films, but a lot of it isn't necessarily fair, or some of it isn't necessarily fair, I would say, or it is just done incorrectly. It's just like they're criticizing, CGI, and they're all model. There's so many models and sets and stuff.
Well, I did some basic old man math, right? Yeah. Let's say Lucas did release them all at once, but 1 year at a time, right?
Okay.
Let's just be realistic. Okay. So the first one comes out in 99, right? The second one, episode 2, comes out in 2000. That means he would have released Revenge of the Sith in 2001, like right before 9/11. Like, could you? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the odds of that synergy between that film and the event, which that film eventually sort of utilized anyway, right? And some weird.
Well, the opening of Attack of the Clones in 2002, when they were making the opening, one of the Naboo starfighters was going to be shot down as Padme was going to land, and it was going to crash into a building. And then that was when it was, and then I believe that's when it was changed to the bombing.
The pipe bomb.
Which
I'm not laughing at pipe bombings, but it's so weird.
The
scene plays out.
Yeah, which in a weird way, like, wasn't really like all that different than what was going on at the time in the news, as we were seeing like lots of terrorist attacks like around the world that were being covered, because America finally was like, oh, terrorist attacks are a thing. Oh, we're going to cover it everywhere now.
Well, in my special edition, we get your version of that opening where it plays out more like that sequence in episode 3 where they're crashing the ship, right? And all these firefighters are put out, where it's that, but in episode 2. And then episode 3, we get our Clone Wars montage, that they cut out. And I reverse those 2 sequences, and you get 2 better openings. So I win. Yeah. I am invincible.
I will say too, I always dug Padme's outfit when she's in the fighter pilot, like her fighter pilot costume. Yeah. I kind of like when the movie first like started, and we didn't know if we knew everything. We thought we knew everything because the script leaked, so we were pretty sure we knew everything. But I was like, man, it would be cool if she like actually is like a fighter pilot going forward. I thought maybe that's where they're going to take it, but
this, my friend, was me yelling at this theater screen by myself in the middle. It was one of those empty theaters at night, in a janky part of town no one goes to because I didn't want to see Star Wars with fans. I'm gonna go and get mad on my own. And I was like, her and him should be flying with the jets together, like fighting together, like that dogfighting kind of banter between Anakin and Padme.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's so many ways they could do this versus sitting on a boat, eating food.
Yeah.
And I'll take an apple and you take a whatever. And do some Star Wars shit, man. Heck, have them battling fucking dudes trying to murder her. And then they're also tracking them down. And it's just like competition over who can like one up one another with bombs. I don't know, man. And then he could show her he's I am the better starfighter pilot. You wish, flyboy. Blah, blah, blah.
It is pretty cool though when he uses the Force to put the fruit on her fork. I'm just saying that's pretty cool. I would do that.
I got some snaps of that from the book. I got some Polaroids from that scene.
The Van fan says, I want to know how they did the Luke voice. That was just Hamill doing it. As far as is that what he's asking?
Yeah. That's Hamill doing the voice, and they just modulate it so it sounds younger. Yeah, I do think you're right though. I think if that guy did, if the guy from the deepfake, I forget his name, smooth dude, he if he did 3 to 4 months worth of work, it's more than likely for the indie sequence when he's young.
Yeah.
If I had to put money on it.
But at the same time, I mean, that was just done filming like weeks ago.
But so Previs started a year ago, probably.
For sure. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how long, because I mean, the movie doesn't come out until next July, and previs, sure, but I'm assuming that he's doing finishing touches on.
But I believe those release dates aren't based on when the movie's done. I think that's when they think there's going to be more butts in theaters. Due to Pandy,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I imagine that film could be locked by spring and sit on a shelf for 3 or 4 months.
Well, that wouldn't be, that's never a bad thing, if it has all the time it needs to be made. It's not up against the release date. I'm not sure like what their shooting schedule is, but it does seem like it's fairly chill. Like, I could be wrong.
I know, and it's a kegger. Right? I happen to know for a fact. Yeah. Mansgold just wheels out. He's got a hot rod that says "We serve beer," and they got kegers in the back, and he just drives around, and everyone just gets freaking lit up.
So this is Mangold. I have the Midas touch.
Everything I touch is gold.
I wanted to read Brian's thing. Brian says sometimes ILM does the effects, sometimes it's shopped out. So time, money, resources. Yeah, that was
even
what
when their
I
name's
thought.
on it. Sometimes those are secondhand effects with their name on it. By the way.
Yeah. One time I was talking to somebody from ILM. They were telling me like how weird it is on certain productions. Like they'll go and they'll farm out like something from Transformers or something like that, and they're like farm it out to India, and India will like literally do the shot, and then after they do the shot, then they just redo it. And he's like, we redo it, and better was like this, meaning sometimes it's not really better. It's just like we just see how they do it and then we do it. Like it was really weird. It sounded like, I guess if it works, it works. But the Van Fam says it's also why locations of these FX houses are important. So they are working on it around the clock. Yeah. Those people are usually the unsung heroes of the film industry, and sometimes, or maybe even oftentimes, have very unfair working conditions and are forced to overwork to make these things happen. Trace Steven says, I wish I was powerful like Lord Vader or the Emperor so I could do something about it. Sorry, dude.
A lot of specific wish fulfillment today on the show, Jason.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just imagining him turning into the Emperor and then being like, no, Disney, now you suck it.
Well, what are the alternatives? I know people go, I wish Disney didn't have it. Let's think about the alternative. Yeah. Lucas So big part of the internet reporting, I was at the time of around 2012, 2011, I was following a site called 3D. It was like 3D movies, specific on 3D movies
Okay.
and like 3D technology. And
Right.
they were doing the early reporting that Lucas was developing sequels that were all going to be shot in 3D.
Right.
Because these quotes go out in bids, and that's kind of like how they would get their info. And everyone's like, "You're nuts, you'd never do it." And then it turns out he was actually developing that. My guess is Lucas decided he really wanted another shot at a family and didn't want to have to deal being with the corporate guy anymore and making 3 other films and all that PR and everything that has to go with it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and if you remember at the time, that was when Robin Quivers was driving around. I know it was weird Howard Stern references today, but Robin Quivers was from the Howard Stern show, was doing a lot of racing, right? She like these car tracks, and she would talk about how she was friends with George Lucas, like he was there racing. So Howard would go, "Oh, you and Lucas gonna get the Lucas money." And then that didn't work out, but eventually Lucas married a woman that looked very similar to Robin Quivers. I mean, same body type, everything. So I'm like, maybe
she had a shot.
I think she had a legitimate shot.
Wouldn't it have been rad if every couple of days on Stern there was some like Lucas story that wasn't supposed to be out there because of it?
So happy. Like I was like, God, please let Robin Quivers and George Lucas. I read her book that she wrote when I was in the Army, because she was a captain in the Army. So Air Force, Army, one of the two. I can't remember. But I think it was
Air Force. I think it was Air Force.
Air Force? Yeah.
Yeah.
We were stationed with Air Force guys. Probably why I remember that way. But anyhow, getting back to what was I saying about shit? See, this is what happens when you start to tangent.
You know, Disney could suck it. That's what.
What was the alternative? So if Lucas had made the films, the sequels himself, and everyone say they loved it, eventually that studio gets handed off to someone else, his kids, someone else. He does retire or leave at some point. What if his kids are no good at running businesses? I don't know about you, Jason, but how many sons of wealthy people do just as well? This is why I told you my dream for the Back to the Future 2 sequel was was his kids were a problem, but it's his kids when they're older.
I was just thinking about Donald Trump Jr. and then you sounded stupid to me. So I'm kidding. I'm sorry. Go on.
All right. Well, I know not everyone can be geniuses like that.
No.
So, I mean, like Steve Jobs' kids should run Apple. Is that what we're talking about? Like,
yeah.
So this goes on and on. Like, so then the option is, who do you sell to? Okay, let's say Lucas decided to sell to Fox. All right, because they had a relationship with Fox. Lucas, as you read from the Rinsler books, didn't get along with that studio.
Well, even if they had, Disney would own them right now.
Then Disney would end up owning them eventually anyway. Like this doesn't. Yeah. Who else does Disney sell to? Warner Brothers? Do we think Warner Brothers would do better with Star Wars? Look at what they've done to the freaking Hobbit films.
No, and I don't want to get any of those psycho fans like sending me messages, but I will tell you, I love Batman in 1989. That's when I love my Batman movies. And I'm not really interested in anything for the most part. I mean, I like the Dark Knight trilogy, but like modern DC movies just don't work for me. They just
the studio is as broke a studio as I've ever witnessed. It's a broke studio, and this goes beyond DC films. You got to look at like even how they handled the marketing and the release of Blade Runner 2049. No re-release of the original film, no interviews with no setting up any context of this online, no making of documentaries, no retrospectives, nothing. They literally showed a desert planet with a slow-moving trailer, Blade Runner, and dumped it into theaters, and then was like, I wonder why it didn't do well. Yeah. Like this, Warner Brothers has got problems. In the Hobbit films, I gotta tell you, I have a buddy, his cousin is one of the lead riggers in 3D films. He worked on the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. He worked on the Matrix sequels. He worked on Avatar, all that stuff. He was so excited. He moved to China to teach, left his job to go work in New Zealand to work on the Hobbit trilogy, and quit less than a year in because he said this production's fucked up. Like they were doing things beyond necessary. They're turning things into CG that don't need to be CGI.
I'll tell you
quality control.
What was unnecessary was when I snuck into that film. I had seen what was that movie? God, what was that movie called?
Bound?
No, it was the movie with like where the kids like on the raft, like tigers and shit, like CGI tigers.
Land of the Lost?
Life of Pi.
Oh, Life of Pi.
Life of Pi.
Tiger. Yeah.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
Ang Lee, right?
Yeah, it was a great movie. It was fantastic. Yeah. And And I was like, oh well, Hobbit's playing next door. I'll go catch that.
I think you
Same
mean
for-
you snuck onto the film. You snuck
no,
in
no. I
okay.
snuck into the
okay.
theater just to like see it. I was like, I didn't feel like going home yet.
Okay.
And so I sneak over and I'm sitting there and I'm watching fucking hobbits wash dishes and sing songs for like 40 minutes. And I got up and I left and I never watched anymore.
It is longer than the pod race sequence.
Yeah,
by a few seconds, but
it's like I just don't love this enough. I'm a Willow man through and through, and it is settled. That's what I said.
And one of them looks like Harry Knowles.
Really?
Which is yeah. I don't want to say the person's physical size, but the face and the hair is literally. And they even joked. Peter's like, it was a nod to Harry because he's friends with Harry.
That's funny.
So here I'm watching Harry Knowles as a hobbit, essentially for 15 minutes. I mean, remember when episode 1 came out? The people were like, pod race is great, but it's too long. And even like C-3PO has that line in the movie. They have to go for 2 more laps. Oh my, like this is settle in, folks. It's gonna be a while.
Yeah,
he's washing dishes for 15 minutes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm just gonna, whenever anybody wants to talk about the pod race, go watch somebody watch dishes.
So who does Lucas sell Star Wars? He wants to get rid of it. He wants to know that it's going to last and endure. Well, Lucas was at Disney opening day. He always said Star Wars, even in the 70s and 80s, this is the kind of movie I thought Disney would make. He offered it to Disney. They wouldn't make it. Everyone turned it down.
Let's even throw out a Brewster's Million kind of concept. Dave Filoni, you are my heir. You have Star Wars now. I quit. Okay. If you mess it up, then you don't own it. If you get it right, you now own it, right? Well, the operating cost, they didn't have it. They were, Lucasfilm was pretty wiped out from the 2008 financial crisis. So,
dude, you are talking about something no one talks about. Is how financially strapped that company was, and I gotta imagine with the increased demand for visual effects being bid lower and lower amongst all those, like say the Marvel films or even the Tron films, the Disney, like the special effects films, those bids were getting smaller and smaller. It's not, ILM needs operating costs, it has a demand.
And I don't know what their finances were, but I do know that was the case. And so I know George Lucas probably would not want to go into debt to make a sequel trilogy. That wouldn't be the plan. The plan would be to make a lot of money to float Lucasfilm for another decade or so. That would have been the reason why he would do it. And I also think that he was pretty real about the fact that if he made another Star Wars trilogy, it was going to suffer from diminishing returns. Force Awakens didn't suffer and profited off of the fact that if there was this tacit promise that any George Lucas wackiness wasn't going to be affecting the film. And that permeated throughout the media on the ramp up to it. So if it had gone that way, it would have been a bunch of people constantly asking them, so is this going to be another CGI shit burger? And Lucas
that was the talking point. If Lucas had been directing those films, that's all you'd be hearing. I mean, that's where the hyperbolic, fans, the ones who are like, Lucas could do no wrong. It's not that he would have done wrong. It's that there was a mentality that had been sitting there for the better part of 10 years at that time. And if that film had come out and done 700 million or 650 million domestically, it would have been seen as a giant, colossal failure.
Yeah, for sure. And so there wasn't really anybody else who can do it. And George Lucas, the thing to remember is, even if you take everything we said off the table and just pretend like he lives in his billionaire own little world, he didn't want to do it. He didn't write the script. He didn't sit down and write the script. Yeah. He didn't.
He already hired Michael Arndt, like a real screenwriter.
Yeah,
an Academy Award-winning screenwriter.
And had they actually had he gone through and had drafts actually completed, if his ideas were so fleshed out that it existed, I would say it was a travesty that they didn't make the George Lucas thing. But the reality of it is like saying you intended to do something and doing it are just so different. So Disney had to figure out how to make Star Wars movies. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy was the other thing to remember is she was there well before Disney bought them. Kathleen Kennedy's
Yeah,
not
he handed that over to her in 2011 or 12.
Yeah,
right?
she was running the company ostensibly well before. And so it's like this was, when you get down to it, actually a best case scenario that if it was anything else was going to happen. So you can get mad at Disney. You can. I mean, I don't love Disney. I'm not somebody who's like, Disney's great. They could be pretty.
I don't care for Maleficence. You know what I mean? I'm not
Nah.
lining up to see another, Cruella de Vil film. Like, it's not my thing.
I barely like the Marvel films. I like them, but I barely like them.
I'm a bigger fan of those.
And,
but
yeah,
two things.
No, same.
So one, with the Disney thing, I'm not a fan of what. So if I had to say, it'd be critical of Disney. I don't like that they went and eliminated the EU, and then they're like, everything's canon, and now it's not. That was just a useless. That was a cash grab to sell Marvel comics with a number 1 on there, and I don't see anything other from it. I don't think it was good. And two, I don't like how they just dissolved LucasArts. Thought that was such a bad. I don't care. I get it was financially problematic, and they were unable to ship. There was a lot of games we don't even know about. I know people who worked on them that never got shipped because it was a problematic studio that had a lack of direction. The alternative of licensing their games to one studio that then makes one fucking game for 10 plus fucking years was not a better alternative, because it brings diminishing value to your brand when everyone's talking shit about it every fucking day on the internet.
Yeah. And to be fair, I don't think anybody imagined that EA would mishandle it to the extent that they did.
Surprised me too, buddy.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming.
To be fair. So what I am trying to say, and I think you too probably, is that Disney could have done a hell of a lot worse, and they didn't. And you hear these rumors like they're rebooting Star Wars and all that stuff. They're not. And that's where we would be if it was truly what the people who are if it's what the grifters were saying it is.
The Voldemorties.
Yes.
The Voldemorties.
Exactly. And it's
they're gonna reboot it, Rick. They're gonna reboot it. I swear, it's all Disney Civil War. Disney Civil War.
you do a good one.
I actually could do a very good Morty.
You do. There was a really good bit in last episode where like a clone, if you will, Rick and Morty are in an AT-AT, and it's approaching this thing, and like there's like an army guy, and he's like, "Sir." He's all an unlicensed AT-AT is attacking the base or something like that, and then he looks at him and he goes, the millennials call it an AT-AT or something like that. It was pretty good. I loved it. Yeah,
plays on both levels, right?
I mean, yeah, it's like it's an AT-AT. Anyways, what's next?
But you're right that all things considered, best case scenario, that's not perfect. And I said, even after Rise of the Skywalker, which I didn't care for, I'm like, or actually Last Jedi, which I found problematic, but I enjoyed a good deal of it, but whatever. I said, I believe the best Star Wars is yet to be made. Yeah. And my friend's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, because it's too good an idea with too much potential. And then you get Mando, right? Which a lot of people feel is their favorite version of Star Wars, which comes after. So it's like, I still feel the best Star Wars of Star Wars that I don't think it'll have the cultural impact that the 77 film had. That's impossible.
Sure. Yeah.
But definitively the best one, I believe that continues to grow. So long as they continue to grow and don't feel like Star Wars can only be one thing, then yeah, we will succeed. But if they're like, look at these competing shots. This and the Mando shot are the same freaking universe. This is two completely different.
And historically are going to basically be seen as the same era. When you get down to it, 20 years from now, this is going to feel like it was the same era.
So it's so weird, right? Like, look, at any film putting this stuff in there, I got to show up for, man. Like, who's putting giant puppet monsters into aliens and playing poker into films, man? Like, come on, have a heart.
Mando Mike says Luke's mouth is still not right. There's no elasticity. In my opinion, the original is better. Deepfake Luke's lips never close when they need to, and the original shows Luke's tongue. It's not better.
That's because the rig, you know.
Nolan's
second.
Yeah. No. I mean, you think I think that there's definitely pluses and minuses to both. I prefer the deep fake version, but if they were working together, maybe
the dyad,
right?
Maybe. I'm never gonna let that concept go, man. Like, what a concept to conjure up that I never would have thought of, right?
Yeah.
That I think makes total Star Wars sense to completely fucking never use in the actual film in a contextual manner. You know, like it's there but not there. It's like when George says, if you look for it, you can find it. Just get a shovel. Diane. Like it's like
my kid loves the Where's Waldo books. Look for it.
Yeah, like the script.
Nolan says, "What's up, gang? I thought I read Shamook was going to update his channel now that he's settling in to his new role rather than him doing a quick stint at Lucasfilm."
It was weird the way it read.
Yeah, and honestly, it depends on which article you read, how they contextualized it. But I thought he was at Lucasfilm and that was what he meant. That now that I'm getting used to the workflow, I could do my side stuff. But I hope that's the case because that'd be the best of both worlds for him and us. Nolan says, just read the quote and he definitely implied being involved in more than a temporary capacity. Okay, cool. Yeah. Gene's guy lasted 1 weekend. Rest in peace. Chandler says, I think it's pretty likely Shamook is going to work on Indy. His Alden to Harrison was fantastic.
The voice, though, doesn't work. It's so hard. Alden's voice is so far removed from Harrison Ford. That's why I think Adam Driver, the voice, he has that deeper Ford gravelly voice.
And he looks like Holiday Special Han Solo.
Oh yeah, it does.
If he was the cosplay as Holiday Special cartoon Han Solo, it would look just like it. I'd be like, that's the animated Han Solo.
You got me on that one. It does kind of look like that. Did you see that video of him running around the Blueberry? There's an ad. I didn't send it to you because I figured there's a Blueberry ad where he's swimming and he's got his shirt off. It's full.
I saw that.
Ripplish Driver. I'm like, there's a whole show on that one. You know? that'll inflame the Voldemorties.
I just like it when his chest glistens. Chandler says, not to say he won't be tapped for Star. Oh, sorry. I think it's pretty likely that Shamook is doing his work on Indy. Yeah, I'm with you too. I mean, that was what my friend Mark first suggested, and I was like, yeah, I think you're probably onto something there. Kill Bill. Mark Hamilton says Kill Bill 2 was a masterpiece. The dialogue was fucking excellent. It really is.
So I forgot this talking point. I'll just bring up on Kill Bill 2. If you think about it, Kill Bill 1 is like the original trilogy, and Kill Bill 2 is sort of like the prequel trilogy if it also included a sequel trilogy wherein you have the resolution that flashes back to the beginnings. And it's more talky and more cerebral, more like Othello, more Shakespearean. Like it, but it doesn't have a big fight at the end. It has a battle of wits. It has an emotional issue versus the faster, more intense battles.
Remember, I think I talked about it recently. Remember the Godzilla poster, Plot Matters, when they were trying to burn Godzilla? Jack says, could a CGI Luke work for an entire series? Hypothetically, if they did a Luke and Grogu series, or would they just need to recast?
They would recast.
I think they would recast. I think that they could do it if they wanted that to be like a major like selling point to it. But at the same time, like it would not really be worth it in my opinion. So, and did I read D'Angelo's thing? They should save all the FX money and hire Sebastian Stan. Give him his own series while Grogu is still there at it. And see, like, I agree with you in that way. I would rather just see Sebastian Stan move it forward, because like that 30-ish years is a long time. I mean, between like the sequel trilogy and Return of the Jedi. And so the amount of Luke stories that you can tell, I mean, you can tell several Luke trilogies if you wanted to before his error happens with his nephew. You know what I mean? And like that's the thing about people who don't like the sequel trilogy that I just do not understand is that like Luke is a human, and when and it's the same people who don't understand Anakin's turn to an extent too. Like Anakin, he's put in this position where he could save his dying wife and child to do this bad thing. I understand why he does it, and there's people who just don't understand that. I don't understand them. And then the same thing with like Luke Skywalker is if you were literally standing above a future Hitler, would you not for a second consider getting the butcher knife and doing the horrible thing?
The problem is these points in the film are just a blip talking point and not the crux of an emotional arc that leads to a decision. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like everything was building to this moment, and then this moment is where they make a decision one way or the other, and do I agree with it or not agree with it? It's just brought up as, oh, I guess she'll die. I've had visions. Oh, there's a way. Oh, I guess I'll join him. It's not that there was an emotional arc. And the same with the Luke thing in Jedi. It's a flashback sequence. It's hard to be emotionally attached, to have like a transference moment where I'm Luke. I now make this decision. You're just seeing Luke having made a decision with very little context. It's just being told he was going to do it and I was going to do it.
Well, so but it does the Arashimon thing. It shows you Kylo's side, and then it shows you Luke's side. And then you're like, and you know, like Luke isn't right. Like that wasn't right. Luke was doing the wrong thing. And
I'm just telling you why it didn't resonate with people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I don't. Rashomon is not known for its emotional core, which is why people don't go. Can't wait to go watch Rashomon again. I love it. I like that and Throne of Blood. Throne of Blood is not. And you know what I mean? It's probably the best adaptation of Macbeth ever, but it's not brought up with adaptations of Shakespeare work because it's got a. Sometimes Kurosawa can be hard to get into. He's almost Nolan-esque in a lot of his films. Some of them do, like Seven Samurai, where you feel the you relate to the characters. Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, Stray Dog, but they're a blip. And Rashomon is, it's a talking thesis. It's more of a thesis than it is like an emotional arc. Does that make any sense? Like, am I?
No, it does. It does. And it's like, and one other side thing on Kurosawa films. Like if you have the DVD of Seven Samurai, there's like a scholar who does a commentary track, and listen to that because there's all this stuff that happens in the movie that's outside of our culture to such a degree you have no idea what it is and you would never guess what it means. Stuff like that's basic stuff, I guess, to some people, but like in the beginning when Homeboy cuts off his top knot to save the little boy. That's like a huge deal. That's like that's not something that you do. That's like cutting off your pinky or something. Anyways, all of that said, like if I'm going to go on the internet and argue about a movie for years, I'm going to watch the movie and any of those little subtle things though, like they become like bigger points. I mean, if I had one criticism of The Last Jedi on that point, it was that Luke never has a moment where he tells Kylo, I wasn't going to do it. Like I saw what you were going to become and look at what you've become, but I wasn't going to, like that never happens. But in a way he has a more mystical, like, I know what's going to happen because I got the Force kind of thing going on. And
this is where I disagree with you on whether Trevorrow's, if the Duel of the Fates script is to be believed, I don't know how the final film will turn out.
It is to be believed. I mean, or that is all real. That
Luke
is the first
playing a ghost that haunts both sides, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And both sides are like, I hate using both sides. That's, but where he's sort of he talks to Rey rejects him. He talks to Kylo's rejected. He's getting rejected from both of these characters in a way, But he is haunting Kylo and talking shit to him in a way. Is not in that Rise of Skywalker film at all, and I think that's just a colossal missed opportunity. Because that is where if him saying I wasn't going to do it wasn't brought up in The Last Jedi, there was time to Monday night quarterback your own studio and go, we could do that in the next one, right?
Yeah.
That was brought up, and we could have him say, as a ghost, I didn't do it. I wasn't gonna do it. I let you know, like
No, and in Rise of Skywalker, they're like should have been a moment where not only does he atone with his father, but there should have been something like where the lightsaber is in Ghost Luke's hands and Kylo takes it or something like that. I don't know what the answer was, but there definitely should have been something that made that all for those two come together. Cause I think that was like where the big ball was dropped on the sequel trilogy. That said, but when we just bring it back to humans at the human level who have to make a choice, it seems like the fan base loves it when the character makes the right choice. It's human, but they do this very right thing and it connects. They're like, yeah, that's what I would do. But then once it's complicated, yeah, and then something happens that actually like furthers the plot, though, that makes further turmoil. They don't like it, and I think like when you get down to maybe I'm wrong and I'm being condescending, and if I am, I'm sorry, but my idea is that sort of an immature fan. No, I don't even mean by age. I just mean immature, who likes to almost be like a child when they watch these things, wants all of the heroes to love each other and get along. And like episode 7 should have started with the big 4 all in the Falcon and Chewbacca, the big 5. And they're all just a big family traveling through space together. And I think like that's what like those people wanted. And whenever you do anything that wasn't that, which I think would have looked like one of the Star Trek later sequel films, which is sort of kind of funny. It's like, did everybody fucking die in this universe? Why is everybody like 60 on the ship? But it would really like, it wouldn't have worked. Like, and so when you have to put these things in that make it where there's a problem, I think that people don't like that. Like I remember like a lot of people taking it hard that I was reporting, it sounds like Han and Leia, if they were ever married, are divorced. People didn't like that, but it's like, what if they're together? There's no reason for the sequel trilogy. You know,
they're on a break.
So Echo Base, how's it going? Echo Base Network. Echo Base Network says this is fantastic news about Shamook. I
has
agree.
A Star Warsy name, right?
Cool. Yeah, right.
Shamook.
Shamook. Yeah. PJ,
I wish my last name was Shamook. That's freaking awesome.
PJ, I'm not sure PJ's. Anyone else think the previous one wasn't that either, though? Does he mean the previous Luke? Because I'm
there's
like,
nuance in the performance. I think the original Luke performance, you can see like little nuances that the deepfake doesn't capture because it's an AI algorithm, you know?
Yeah.
So I get why you could say the performance is better. Just one is hard. It's easier to see Mark Hamill. The other one, you have to do a little imagination. Yeah. You got to sprinkle it with the little imagination, right?
Yeah.
Paul Rudd, right?
Yeah, no. And like I said, like, I'm glad it happened. Just not going to pretend like I was like, what the fuck is this archival Mark Hamill footage? What am I seeing right now? Like, you know,
I wish you and I, if we had a DeLorean right now, Jason, right, we could hang out for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for us to go back to that first time they showed that train footage to people who've never seen movies before, and the train's coming at you in the camera, and everyone ran out the theater because they thought a train was coming to kill them. Like, wouldn't you just like to go see that? Like, I know there's all the things you can do with the time machine, but like that's what I would do, right?
Oh
like,
no, I'd be like, everybody run! It would have been my fault.
We go, it's gonna kill us all.
Yeah, no, totally. Go back to the Orson Welles War of the Worlds thing. Start boarding up board up your windows. The aliens are coming. It's all like us.
We're sitting outside the White House with the van full of like, you know, like survival gear and like, you know, it's coming. They're ready. We got Haz. We're up there. Like, just
yeah. I would. Man, that was the one problem. Like being a Back to the Future fan as a kid.
Time trolls. We got to do our direct.
Trolls.
I'm not cutting you off. But before I ever get this idea, our great direct to DVD or VHS. I want to do direct to VHS limited runs like films, right? Where we just wreck the environment, but in low quantities. What we could do instead of time bandits is time trolls, where we just get a time machine, we just troll the history.
That is perfect. No, time trolls is perfect. Like I want to go and I want to tell people like the Sky Captain guy, don't worry, your movie is going to change the world. Stuff like
I never, bro. You know that scene in Roger Rabbit where Eddie Valiant grabs the road and it takes and throws on the wall, so the freaking the tune runs right into it.
Right.
Like that's I never saw that, but perfect. Like that is perfect.
Did you know that the tunnel to Toontown is the same tunnel in Back to the Future Part 2 that Marty rides the hoverboard in against Biff?
It's the LA tunnel, right?
Yeah, it's out there by the observatory.
It's also in it's in THX 1138.
Right.
Yeah,
that movie gets around.
Which, by the way, I was rewatching the other day because I'm on a big old Lucas kick, and he has to be credited with the visual look for Blade Runner at this point, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because the futuristic cars with giant lights and lens flares, and the way they set up the old world tech, things shot on video screens that are being recapped, and the light being on Robert Duvall's face.
Yeah,
like that is straight up Blade Runner, bro. Like
I've always because I'm like I said, I was a fan of William Gibson and like Neuromancer and the idea of cyberpunk and stuff like that, and I have never been able to really understand how like people who define what's cyberpunk and what's dystopian, like where they draw that line and why they draw the lines where they do. Because I've always felt like dystopian and cyberpunk are kind of like so together in that as a genre. I don't even know if really cyberpunk is cyberpunk just simply dystopian stories with technology, where, you know what I mean? Is that the only difference?
Yeah, instead of deserts, it's tech. It's the tech wasteland,
instead of
right?
It's
what have happened if Sony made you replace everything from 2 years to 2 months to 2 days to 2 minutes.
Yeah.
What society would bring about that? In a way to support that idea, there's this documentary I sent you last week about George Lucas did in 1971, which is when THX 1138 came out.
Yeah.
And it's long, it's slow, but there's this thing where he gets in where he talks about how the studio wanted him to set it in the movie in a dystopian future, but he saw the student film as taking place in 1969 when he made it, or like he still saw that. It looks like it, but it's the way I see the world now. It's not a dystopian future. They want me to set it, no, put this off in 2055. Like, no, this takes place now. It's just a way. Like, I kept trying to figure out, like, is he really saying that exists now? Like, where? Like, there's such a, it's not a tangent that the interviewer really gets him to explain clearly, but like,
well, yeah, I know. I follow though. Last night, my son comes up to me and he's like, "Dad, you listen to weird music," and I'm like, and so because I am a weird dad, I am teaching him about craft work and Devo and early synth music. Because you don't want your kid growing up not knowing early synth music.
Mother's Ball is not just responsible for Ragnarok. Okay,
right? Yeah, and. But anyways, my son was tripping out on Beautiful World, and like I kind of the Devo song. It's kind of amazing if you never listened to it. If you never got into Devo, it's this chorus is like, "It's a beautiful world we live in, sweet romantic place," and then it has like a bunch of 50s kitsch kind of stuff playing, right? And then when you get to the end of the song, the tone drastically changes and it starts to show like the KKK, and it starts to show like Nazis marching, and it's a beautiful. And at the end, he finally sings "For You, Not Me," and you don't get the "not me" until the end, as you start to see all the culmination of all of that. Where what was beside all of that adorable 1950s kitsch was this other terrible shit, and so that's the kind of stuff I teach my kids. But it's good art, so it is what it is. And so I'm teaching him that, and then he's like, yeah. And then we finally get to craft work, and I'm showing him what does he say? We are the robots, and it's just like all German, and then you hear like we are the robots, and it said over and over, and he's just like, what are they trying to say here? And so I had to go in about how man is removed from nature now, like we're not we're not, going to a well and getting our water, and we're kind of moving towards this like sitting in cubicles kind of life. And even during the pandemic, I'm like, you start to lose your humanity in that. And so I think that like George Lucas in a weird way is on the same page as those synth pop or guys. I don't know. You know what I mean? He's sort of like
they're of the
making
same era too. So they're thinking along the same lines. I also think too that Lucas being pressured to make it seem more like in the future, so we don't offend anyone now, maybe is the idea. Or it just seems weird to them. They're like, how would this, it all looks like it's in the future. Why would it be now?
George Lucas can't say that the robot cops who are men who've lost their humanity are the LAPD. He can't say that. Yeah.
They're clearly T-1000s, bro.
Yeah.
So yeah. So, but then I go, I'm a little bit, I got a little bit of an asshole in me, right? So
we all have one.
Some studio tells me this shit needs to all be in the future. All right, well, now I'm gonna make a science fiction film where it's all set in the past, a long time ago. Like, I can just see him going, "Fuck their future, it's in the past now."
You know what?
Can't argue with me.
I'm gonna fuck your life up so much, your fairy tales are gonna fill it. Man, George, you're crazy, dude. You're spiteful, dude. You're a spiteful dude, George. Cad says, what's one scene from Star Wars that gives you chills? For me, it's Revenge of the Sith, when you see Anakin, aka Vader, leading in the 501st into the Jedi Temple. Man,
it's the 9/11 shot before that where the temple's just on fire.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think it would affect me because nothing in that film really touched me on any kind of personal level other than I can't believe I have to sit through this shit again.
Right.
Which I've changed, but at the time, I'm just saying. But I think that shot is really well done. Out of all the films that tried to touch on 9/11, post 9/11, I actually think that shot actually does it the best.
Mine is when I think Lucas tries to be the most. I read Joseph Campbell. I understand the call to adventure. When Anakin is going to go with the Jedi, and then the Force theme starts, runs back to his mom, and then the Force theme is going. That moment for me is probably the best moment of the Phantom Menace. No talking, John Williams saying it all. I think it encapsulates the entire story of those three films right there. You know
in the Phantom Menace, to defend the prequels, I love that scene where Maul's staring him down and Qui-Gon decides to meditate. Mm-hmm. He just and it's no talking. It's just you can see the two philosophies at play visually.
Yeah, you understand everything about both opponents or whatever in through the body language of that moment. And it builds them up too. I mean, it was a good character moment. It says something about Qui-Gon, and it says something about what Maul is, and even who he was going to become. Strangely, Mr. Tweak says deepfake is what my girlfriend starts screaming last night.
You only get that joke once, but well played.
Yeah, well played. Real Ben. Hey Ben, how's it going, dude? Ben, I think might join us this week. I'm not sure. He should though. Real Ben says, or some people may just not like certain aspects of the sequel trilogy or like them. I feel there are so many excuses in letting people have opinions because everyone has the right to eye roll. Yeah, that is one of the things about opinions. Is it's true that everyone has a right to their own opinion. Not everyone's opinions are equal. Not everyone's opinions are as well thought out as others. Like someone who is going to write a book on Star Wars, for instance, and has this opinion about something. Is it the same as somebody who is just part of the chorus, whatever they heard on YouTube.com or something like that? And it definitely, a lot of people don't want to think.
Let's take it back to us. We're pretty informed fans of Akira Kurosawa. Mm-hmm. But us talking about Akira Kurosawa ain't the same as that scholar on the DVD commentary talking about Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai. Like, it's not even, or the Orson Welles, which I bought at the same time. They both came out like the same week. So I bought the Citizen Kane DVD and that Seven Samurai DVD, and that has the Citizen Kane DVD has a similar, might even be the same dude, but it was a similar scholastic breakdown of the context of that film in a way that you or I could not grasp.
For sure. And and even like I would even just I'll roll myself back and say I'm really familiar with those films, but I am no expert. You know what I mean? Like I like them. I thought they're informative to Star Wars, and then they happen to be really good movies. That was like the best part. Was I was like, oh wow, I do love these though. But yeah, it's definitely a kind of thing. Like I think, you know, there's this like dialectical method of getting to the truth where somebody says this and then this point meets it and cancels it. That's not true. And then eventually you get to the truth. But on the internet, but things are just built on whoever says it the loudest and maybe first. Whoever strikes first wins, and whoever says it the loudest wins. And it's like that whole thing. I don't like something, so I'll say a lot of people are saying, and it's like, no, you said that, or you had your friend say it, and then like that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't have anything to do with reality or truth. And that's what's kind of frustrating about like online discourse about films, and the fact that it like 95% of film journalists. There's 5% are just really good, and the other 5 are just like nerds who don't want they don't want to do a different job or something. So they wanted to do like movie stuff, but then they're not good at it, and they don't do the work. They don't do any of the legwork, and
I also think there's a difference between scholastic review, right, and things that are existing from a craft standpoint, versus things from say a creative who's going to be inspired by and take away from. Like if I see Star Wars and I see something that I really love that no one else likes, but that inspires me to make something else.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I saw the prequels, it inspired me to write my own versions, not because I thought I could do better, but to understand what is I didn't like. Right. Or maybe that led to something else. So what I think is that we have to be there's a line in Big Trouble in Little China when they're at the restaurant. Everyone's at the table and Jack Burton's on the phone trying to get his truck insurance. And they're talking about the history of Lo Pan. And he's like a mist, and you know, he was there throughout time. And then Jack Burton says something to the extent of like, what are you talking about? Which guy is he? Is he this ghost or a walking guy? And then Egg Shen says something like, he goes, Chinese history, it's like Chinese buffet. You take what you want and leave the rest. You know, and that to me is like, that's like history and opinions are like, you pick out the ones as fans that you sort of, you know, that you like, and you leave, they're at the buffet, but I'm going to pick these few here as a person who creates. But if we're going to get into a discussion over whether there's something, here's what they intended to do, did they achieve it to its fullest potential or at all? That is not objective. You can literally see, did they achieve it? Or Sky Captain was not what they, you know what I mean? They intended to do one thing and it ended up as another. I never
noticed that yet. Rose's scene from The Last Jedi is kind of the same thing about saving what you love. You know what I mean? It's the same thing.
Yes, it's the same thing. And I really like that actress, but it's not my movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Real Ben Maynard says the entire sequel trilogy was so mismanaged for all 3 movies. So he's very critical of them.
I'm a fan of top-down leadership, you know, which means that the people at the top take the hits, not the people on the crew and at the bottom, right?
Right.
So the crew did their job fantastically. The people making decisions, you know.
Yeah, those movies are well made, though. And I mean, I don't think anybody could argue that. Yeah. Mark Hamilton says we can get 30 years more context with Sebastian Stan to show the catalyst, to show Luke shutting off the Force and going to Octu. I want to see Luke being drawn towards the dark side and fearing who he could become. Yeah, I mean, and it's like when you think about like the possibility of Luke's character, like by the time he has maybe conquered that pull and feels like, okay, I feel like I'm a balanced person who's not going to just trip and fall. The Jedi aren't supposed to be having kids. He's not supposed to have family. He's not supposed to have, when you get down to it, like in a weird way, Ben Solo kind of puts him into the same place that Anakin was with having a mom, where now all of a sudden, like there's family involved in this thing that makes it more heightened, the emotions more heightened. And so by the time
this
the
isn't
dude,
some kid Jedi who could kill the universe.
yeah,
This is like my father. It's me. It's my sister. It's attachment.
yeah, and
Yeah,
and
the
for
whole
Luke, who probably at that time had, we assume, if they do a series, that could change, but we assume decided, a family isn't in my life. This is my family, and then here comes Ben Solo, who's actual family and is like the closest thing he's going to have to his son in his life that we know of. At the same time, what if they do go and, like we were talking yesterday about Obi-Wan Kenobi? What if Corky's his illegitimate son? What if it goes the other way?
It's like how Obi-Wan's a coxman that just runs around the galaxy, just seeding his little bearded mullet
Little,
ones. You know what I mean?
but I mean, but they, they could tell a tale of Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker, and it starts to go there, and then she leaves because he has a bigger calling, but she's,
Or she
the old,
dies during that thing being on fire.
that thing being on fire, or what if Luke has a son, and what if that goes into that he doesn't know about, and that is, you know what I mean, and that, like, you would have thought he would have been the chosen one, or that, he would have the Rey position, but what if Rey ends up becoming the one who leads Luke Skywalker's son someday? Like, there's all kinds of places that they can go if they decide to build that. And when you hear it now, like if I just throw it out there like that, it goes a little bit like, oh, I don't know, man, because this and this. But once you like once we know more and they fill in more, you buy into more. And
well, this is exactly what WandaVision accomplished for Vision,
yes,
and Wanda. When then people go back and watch Age of Ultron,
right,
and then they watch the little bits that occur in Civil War and the sequence in Infinity War where they're together in Glasgow, or was it Scotland?
yeah,
Then all that gives it more context. It's what George always said, that you go back and watch the films and you have more context if done correctly. 100%. If
yeah.
it literally is just Luke doing like the Grogu and doing the Ally McBeal dancing, right? And it's like Saved by the Bell, but with, Jedis, then no, it's not gonna work. I definitely agree. There's room to get all those themes context. The complication is, moving forward with any sort of saga movie, is it at all possible to put that in a saga film, or do you have to build it up with the show now and then release a saga film? Or because they tried small movies, that don't work. Like, what is the context for a film, right? Like, what? I don't know, man. That's complex.
The way I understand the current or most of the business model at the moment, and it might be because of the pandemic, but is that you want to make that licensing money, and the TV shows do that. Grogu proved it. And so when you get down to it, like when a Star Wars movie makes 700 million, pretty good money, costs a couple hundred million to promote, but when they don't have to do that.
21 take on it, right? And it might be wrong in 10 years. I regret it, right? Red Letter, like when they were like, we regret picking JJ, kind of nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, is that they do a series that culminates in a movie team up, big event thing, that they could briefly explain in the crawl to get everyone up to speed if they haven't seen the TV show, right? But you'll get more context if you've seen the TV show.
Yeah, I would not write off the concept that Mandalorian ends up with this big culmination of the story, and then they make a Mandalorian film for the theater because everything's back to normal now in 4 years. And it's like the Battle of Mandalore in live action, and it's huge, and something that would never happen in a TV show. I wouldn't write that off. I wouldn't write off anything from the TV shows ending up in films eventually if they decide this is better to tell as a 2-hour movie. Like that could easily happen. I think right now what we're getting is what we're getting in the way that we're getting it because of a pandemic and because Solo failed. And so if there's any question about whether it's a good idea, then it's like, well, will a Kenobi movie sell? Will the old gray-haired guy from the original Star Wars sell a movie? Will Obi-Wan Kenobi sell a movie when he was in the prequels and those have a bad reputation that we've kind of helped push even to up
and
our
really
last stuff?
Interested to see what kids who grew up with these, the kids that aren't here, these kids who grew up with the films that love them aren't having these discussions with us. They're off playing Fortnite and living life and trying to figure out how to make their way in the world. Yeah. But what will they bring to the table 10 years after the sequel trilogy came out, and they go, no, this was my thing. This is what inspired me to make this and that, which has happened with the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh, for sure. I mean, like I obviously find myself in the prequel camp more than the other two trilogies, to be honest. Like, for whatever reason, those are the ones I tend to gravitate towards. With that said, I think that there would be a large amount of the audience who would love if they made a Clone Wars movie today. Like, if a Clone Wars movie if there was a movie announced that was called like the Clone Wars, blah, 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 the subtitle, I don't think it would do poorly. I think it would actually probably connect and probably do really, really well. And
well, I'll wrap it up with this. My nephew is 18 now, 19.
Yeah.
And a couple years ago, pre-Pandy, I went over to see my cousin, who's his mother, because she had turned 40, because we all age. And I'm sitting there with him, and I knew his father when we were in the 6th grade. So this kid is not just my family. It's like Luke looking at your little, Adam Driver. And he's playing Battlefront, and he's using the clone troopers. And he's like, clone troopers are the best thing about Star Wars. Like, that's the best Star Wars there is. And they should have more clone troopers. I want more Battlefront 2 and clone troopers. And I was looking at him like, kid's out of his mind. But his generation only knows the prequels and the Clone Wars cartoon. That is his whole, he was like 5 or 6 when the episode 3 came out, episode 2. And then he goes through Clone Wars up to Battlefront. And if I were the same age, them clone troopers and all that stuff would be my everything.
Yeah.
So I believe you're 100% right.
Yeah. I think that's always where whatever's next has to satiate the nostalgia of the previous generation who enjoyed it, but also make amends with the other people who either don't know it or didn't like it. But
right
that
the wrongs.
Yeah, essentially
to make things right.
Yeah, I mean, and like that's what like Deborah Chow is going to do with Kenobi to some extent. She's going to give us Obi-Wan Kenobi probably fighting Darth Vader, and it's probably going to be like really well done because there's not all that other stuff that has to happen. They don't have to talk about the fall of a republic, and they don't have to talk about what happens to the kids and what happens to Luke Skywalker, or you know what I mean? Like, not necessarily anyway.
He doesn't have to yell no. Now we did it.
There aren't most of the check boxes have been completed. Now they could just go back to it, have a rematch, and focus on exactly more of what worked there. And that's
Obi-Wan's
cool.
like, Padme's in my DMs, Vader. She's in my DMs.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna throw it out there. If I was Padme's friend, I'd be like, why are you hanging out with that long-haired fuckboy when you got the Ewan McGregor right there? What are you doing?
He's got a red beard.
She would probably be like, well, when I met him, he had kind of like a white trash like braid thing, and I'd be like, oh,
CGI'd on.
She's like, I can't unsee it, and I'd probably be like, I get it.
That elevator sequence in Attack of the Clones where they CGI'd the beard onto Ewan McGregor.
No, it wasn't CGI. It was just the fake beard. It was just a
whatever
fake
that is,
prosthetic.
man.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? To this day, I still can't tell.
Same thing in Attack of the Clones when they're walking into the "You'll be the death of me" moment. When they're walking into the club, you look at that and it looks like he has like a pirate beard from another movie on or something all of a sudden. And that was like reshoots. And then I think they lost like a good one too. They lost one of Qui-Gon's beards too, from somebody was asking about prequel stories. And I don't know if this is just kind of a common one, but when that big storm hits the Tunisian set, Liam Neeson's fake beard, it goes missing. Nobody knows what happened to it. So that's kind of scary though.
Looked pretty good though.
But yeah, he never looked weird. He only looked waxy in the digital scenes. His two digital.
So that beard is just out there right now, just crawling across the desert.
Somewhere, somebody's going to be in Tunisia and be like, "What is this?" They're going to like put it on, and then somebody's like, "It's like a British tourist," and then they're going to see the beard and they're going to be like, "He's a spy." Gets executed. But all right, yeah, we're gonna
rebel spy.
We're going to call it a day because it is already 2 hours and 8 minutes. I didn't realize we had gone that long already. We did it. We did it again. Thanks to everybody who came to the chat. You could support the channel by becoming a channel member or you can become a Patreon supporter and get exclusive audio if you prefer to listen to our dumbasses in your ear holes instead of your eye holes. That's cool.
We do
too.
audio commentary over our commentary.
We just talk over each other. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we will see you guys tomorrow. Saturday, by the way, we're going to be doing the UFO show. I believe Thrawn's going to be joining me and Jason. And if you end up free, you're always invited to come whenever you want to come or whenever you're free on a Saturday. I know you have a beautiful wife, and it would be dumb to talk about spaceships during the weekend like an idiot. But
except when she's playing Dofus all weekend.
But when she's doing that, you come on. You talk about you talk about little green men with us. But
they're gray and owls, don't you know? No.
But and once again, thanks to everybody. And I'm going to this time pull up my video, and it's going to play because I said play.
It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.